still perfecting in painting today. And Mouse and Kelley are together again, and they are two people that actually rocked the world since about 1966. So, what do you do?
Where the hell are they?
We really have nothing to say. This is terrifying. Okay, that's it. They're not listening.
Wait. How does it feel to be famous and wealthy?
I have a clue.
There's nothing worse than being poor and famous.
Okay.
So anybody want to ask any questions about sex or dope or?
First actually meet together, your first time meeting.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you. I just got there from Detroit. I probably looked like a real Yahoo. Probably had Bermuda shorts on. I just got to San Francisco, and I went over to this house on Pine Street. And you walked in the door, and there was this little AM radio blaring. So horrible that you couldn't hardly hear anything on it, but it was loud. And there was Kelley in the corner, sitting on a whole pile of like trash or furniture or something, kind of just crumbled. And he had a crowd. It looked like this, sort of, but not as many people. And Kelley was up on top of this thing in the corner, and he was talking. And I went, wow, that guy's talking some mean stuff. You know? And so we all listened. It was really far out.
I don't remember that. I remember that. Yeah. I don't know what I was talking about. Yeah, I'm sure it was just pure garbage.
Talking trash.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we were probably stoned. Yeah.
Probably.
Well, in those days,
Yeah.
it was hard to find anybody who wasn't stoned.
Yeah, that's very true. And it was very cheap.
$85 for a full kilo of Michelin.
Yeah. And $50 if you went down there and got it.
So how did the first artwork go?
Oh.
I think after Kelley gave up the family dog to Chet,
Yeah.
he became the art director.
And then Stanley and I started working
Well,
together.
actually, Kelley did a poster for the family dog.
We only did the first
Way
poster
long
for the family
time, yeah,
dog.
long.
First 2 or 3, was it?
Yeah, first 3 or 4, yeah.
Tribute to Doc
Strange, yeah. Yeah, for the longshoremen's.
I saw that on the telephone pole. I said, this looks interesting.
So the first one we did together, Kelley and Chet came over to my studio and we had a meeting about doing posters.
And we got paid $37.50 a piece.
Holy shit.
Remember, Chet said, what kind of stuff do you do? And I said, well, I do little cartoons. He says, no, we don't want any cartoons. I think that lasted with me a long time. I never did cartoons after that.
Yeah, I wonder where Chet is today.
Chet?
We came back from Virginia City after the summer up there with the charlatans, and we were living on Pine Street. And we figured that we have to do something other than deal pot. You know, because it's a dangerous business. So we thought about throwing some dances because we knew the bands, we knew the Charlatans, and we knew the Jefferson Airplane was starting, and Quicksilver was starting.
Kind of started at like little parties around, where like at the firehouse there,
Right.
and where bands would play and everybody have a great time.
And then we rented the Longshoremen's Hall, and Bill Ham did the lights, and the building itself was just awful. I mean, it's a dome concrete building, and it just echoed everything. So we had to pad the inside of it so we could even hear the band, because people walking across the floor made more noise than the people on the stage.
So who all was involved in it?
Oh, that was myself, Gloria Castell, Ellen Harmon, and Jack Tolles. And there was a family dog, his name was Animal. He was a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and he got run over by a car on California Street. Yeah, the family dog, yeah.
How did the doghouse get its name?
Because it was full of people with dogs. Tim Cameron had this awful dog. It was some kind of blue tick hound, and it was named Rasulga. And it looked like Rasulga. It was just this awful dog. And we had Animal, and there was Sancho, another dog, David Hump's dog. And
Sancho, the restaurant?
yeah, so Sancho was a smart dog. Yeah, Sancho was a good dog.
They said
He would go from house to house, and he was like the family dog. He just knew where to go to get things to eat. And you'd see him going down the street, and you could stop your car at the door, and he'd jump in and go with you wherever you went.
wasn't there a story about they'd go out to eat and they'd go to the restaurant and Sancho would be waiting for him. So one time they said we're just gonna write it down where we're going to eat. We're not gonna tell Sancho. And so they did, and he was there before they. He knew all the alleyways.
He did a lot of eating.
And there was a time I remember when they said no more dog talk because everybody just sat around and talked about their dogs. So they made it.
Yeah, there was too many dogs, yeah. But we had a bunch of buildings on Pine Street. And Bill Ham was a landlord. And I can't remember what the rent was, but it couldn't have been more than $100. Oh, God. I'll tell that. Yeah. But anyway, we had, let's see, there was a 1836 Pine Street, 2111, 2210, and a few other buildings. And these were all just full of all these different people. And I can remember the first light show we went to. And
Was it on Octavius?
I know it was at Bill's house, in the basement there. He had that big German Shepherd, Wooten, there's another dog.
How was that projector with
Yeah, and I'm going, what? Light show, what's he gonna do? Pull his light switches or? I couldn't figure out what they were talking about. And we went into the basement of the house where Bill lived. And they turned out all the lights. And Bill had this percussion group that played gongs and chimes and that kind of thing. And the room was like pitch black. They had blacked out all the windows and everything. And then very slowly, Bill turned up the light so you could just see the walls start to move a little bit. And it was done real slow with these gongs and things, and I was just totally blown away. Of course, I was totally blown away. But it was a great experience to see the light show for your first time under those conditions.
Yeah, that was like building up to the dance hall thing too.
Yeah.
Because you would-
But Bill made a box that we took up to Virginia City, a light box that worked with the Charlatans when they were playing in the bar up there. And that was a great summer, the summer in Virginia City. We all dressed like cowboys, and we all had the long hair, and everybody carried a gun, a real one. And it was fun. I mean, they just loved this in Virginia City, because Virginia City was really a ghost town at that time, before the tourist thing or anything like that. If you go up there now, I don't even recognize it. But it was really an abandoned town, and there was a few bars, the Bucket of Blood, the Red Dog, and a few other bars, and that was about it. And we spent the summer up there dropping acid and smoking pot, and drinking and shooting. And every day we'd go out to the city dump and shoot bottles and stuff. And I remember one of the guys shot the end of his shoe off. He got himself a quick draw holster. It was Bob Cohen, and he was doing quick draw practice, and bang, he shot it. Didn't hit his toes, but he shot the bullet right through the end of his boot. And they got rid of the quick draw holster. But we all had guns, and it was really a great summer. And then when we came back from there, that's when we decided that we'd start doing the dances and all that. And like the Fillmore used to rent for $60 a night. So that you could just rent it for $60 and throw any kind of party you wanted. And when Bill Graham found that out, he took a 4-year lease on the building.
I have a question. Can you talk a little bit about the pre-hippie days? You hung around people like Neil Cassidy and...
Oh, the beatniks.
Yeah, the beatniks.
Well, when I first came to San Francisco, I came out here in 1959. And I was on North Beach, and there was the beat scene going on and all that. And Neil Cassidy is the guy that Kerouac used as the prototype for Moriarty in On the Road. And Neil drove the bus for Kesey and all that. And Neil, I don't know what to say about Neil. Neil is the strangest personality I've ever run across. He's the only guy that I've ever seen. I don't know if you were there that day, Stanley. We're at the Dead House, and Neil comes in, and he's got a big, kind of a short-handled sledgehammer with him. And he's walking around the room, balancing it and kind of tossing it from hand to hand. And at the same time he's doing that, he's talking to me, he's talking to this guy over here, he's talking to her, he's talking over to Victor, he's talking to this guy down here, and he's spinning around the room. And when he turns to you, he's at the conversation that you're having with him, right? And then when he turns over here, he's at the conversation she's having with him. And I don't know how he did it, but he was in control. I mean, it made perfect sense, except if you recorded it. And you didn't know he was talking to all these different people at the same time. And at the same time, he was doing this balancing act. And the guy was like, I don't know, he was like made out of iron. He was always kind of uptight, but not really uptight. He was just like a weightlifter, kind of made out of bronze or something. He was really, truly a strange man. And I guess he died of exposure from drinking too much and passed out on the railroad tracks down in Mexico. But is that what you wanted to hear? Where did she go? Is that what you wanted to hear?
You know what? You would tell me one thing about him doing this balancing act with his hammer in one hand.
Yeah, that's what I just did.
Right, okay.
Stanley, I got a question. Talk about Big Daddy Ed Rock and Rat Fink and how all that happened for you.
Well, before I got into the posters, I was airbrushing T-shirts and sweatshirts at car shows and fairs. And I did this for about 10 years. And since I was like 18, and it was quite the phenomenon because it was a big fad. And in painting like that, it was like real fast, and I felt like I was sort of doing performance art. And people would ask me to draw things, and they'd stand behind me, and I'd draw to their heads. And I came up with the one character in the picture there. I call him Fred Flybugger. And then I was painting at a car show somewhere in Pittsburgh or something. And Ed Roth came and asked if he could paint there, Big Daddy Roth. And I said yeah, because I had the exclusive on it. And so he sat next to me, and he said, kid, I'll show you how to make the difference between $100 and $300 at a car show. And so we started painting, and I colored my stuff in, and he didn't. I did about $1,000, and he did $300. And so and I had a big catalog of it. I had like a 48-page catalog. He took it back to L.A. and had all his art. He had a lot of artists working for me. He had his artists come up with the red fink. It was based on my character.
He put ears on it.
Yeah. Made him a little seedier.
Stanley, I also like the story that continues on from back in California.
Oh, right, yeah. I was at when I first came to California, I used to do this fair in Orange County, and it was a Hawaiian motif fair. And I liked it because it was like surfer land, and I was from Detroit, so.
Not much surfing.
Yeah, right. And so I was there eating mescaline and painting T-shirts, and my girlfriend was piercing ears and having a good time. And 3 little kids come up, little surfer kids, and they said, do me a shirt with Murph the Surf on it. And I said, who? And they just like, they just chided me for hours about it, that I didn't know who Murph the Surf was. And so I said, go get a picture of him and bring him back, and I'll do it on a shirt. And so they did. And the next day I did a Murph the Surf T-shirt. And then when I moved up to San Francisco, Ida Griffin moved next door to me.
Right.
And we used to watch her come out of the building and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well,
hi.
I helped, me and David Homage carried her refrigerator 2 flights of stairs.
And we didn't know who she was.
Yeah, we had no idea.
But anyway, then Kelly and I started doing posters, and she took a poster and sent it to Rick Griffin, and he just made a beeline down here.
Yeah, Rick left Chenard Art School to follow my actions.
It was at Chenard Art School that one of his teachers told Rick that you can't make art with a rapidograph pen.
That's what they told me in my art school. Get away from the airbrush, it's a crutch.
Stanley, could you talk about the skull and the skeleton for dead and how it came to be in
The skull?
You know,
skeleton?
Oh, you mean the band thing? Yeah, we were doing posters for the Avalon, and there was this band called the Grateful Dead, and it was a neat name, so trying to figure out a good poster for it. So we went to the public library, and we'd do this like every week. We'd go to the public library and go back in the stacks that had all these really cool books, and we just raged through them.
Oh, yeah, the stacks were great. But as I remember with the Rubia, I think we had at Garage.
No, you came out of the stack and said, look at this.
Oh, okay, right. All right,
That's it.
yeah.
And we just went and stuck it on the poster and colored it in, and that
Yeah,
was
it
it.
turned out to be a real winner.
I had a stack of them about this high by my door in my studio. Every time somebody left, they'd take one. If I only knew. I was a millionaire.
Back in those days, were you, I mean, you said you were at the Dad House, and being involved with the family dog, were these influences on you at all, hanging out with people? Were you getting ideas from these people as well, as what they wanted, say the skeleton thing for the Grateful Dead?
No,
So you were just pretty much free to do what you wanted to create for them, and they were happy?
yeah, we just did what we wanted, yeah, because everybody, I mean, it was a totally different thing going on.
When you start getting art directors, that's when
Yeah.
it falls apart.
Yeah, no, it was totally loose, and the whole scene in the Haight-Ashbury and all that, it was before there was hippies. There was no such thing as hippies during those days. I mean, I don't know where that word came from, but yeah, somebody made it up, but we were just the freaks. And I can remember the first dance in Longshoreman's Hall, the tribute to Dr. Strange. And we threw this gig, and we had no idea what was going to happen. So it was, everybody had knots in their stomach and was really uptight. And then people started to filter in, and it started to happen and all that. And then there was maybe about 400 or 500 people show, and everybody was walking around with their mouths open because nobody realized that there were that many freaks in town. There was all this hair, and everybody was really far out because all of us only knew our own little cliques, And there was this little scene on North Beach, and a little scene in Haight-Ashbury, a little scene on Pine Street, a little scene over in the Noe Valley, and all this kind of thing. And I don't think anybody had any idea that there was that many.
You have to picture the city with no traffic.
Yeah, and you can actually park your car, and...
It was pristine, actually. There was all these secondhand clothes stores with like all these treasures in it.
Yeah, it was just unbelievable. That's where all the clothes came from, and the look and everything was just there for a nickel. Like in the poster, I found this pin that's on my hat. It was a big gold pin, all with red and white and blue rhinestones with a big pearl in it. It said, "Remember Pearl Harbor." And I used to bank at the Bank of Tokyo and wear that in. I always enjoyed that.
Tell us about you guys meeting, how you first connected with each other
What?
in San Francisco here when you and Stanley met.
Oh, Stanley told that. We met on Pine Street. Yeah, Stanley came to see Jim Gurley and Nancy. They were your friends, right? From Detroit. And I was living in the, I don't know if I was living in the same building, but I was in the building anyway. I think I was living across the street from them at the time. But there was a Pine Street had this big scene going on it with Bill Ham and all the, you know, Jim and Nancy Gurley and from Big Brother and the Holding Company. And,
You were aware of Stanley's art?
oh, God, yeah, sure. Stanley's like an icon, yeah.
Were you making a living as an artist then as well?
No, I was a mechanic. I was doing motorcycles and stuff. I was a welder in LA for a while, which was great. It was like heaven coming from New England. I was working a welder in a speed shop down there, and I had 3 motorcycles. I was making lots of money. My girlfriend at the time had her own bike. I mean, you could go swimming on Christmas Eve, and coming from Connecticut, I mean, it was like... And then I came up to San Francisco, because I had come to San Francisco in '59, and I had gone back east in '64. My father died in '64, so I went back east and stayed with my mother for about 8 months until things stabilized. And I was working as a bike mechanic, and I had bought a bunch of old bikes and stuff, and I restored them, fixed them up, and sold them, and went down to Mexico for the winter. And instead of going back to LA, I decided to come to San Francisco. So I had this little Triumph sports car, and I came up to San Francisco with 22 pounds without a stick or seed. I cleaned it all before I left. But I figured if I was going to meet anybody, you know. Now we have Stanley had a store right across the street, the Pacific Ocean Trading Company, Potco.
I was walking down Haight Street the other day, and I'm walking down the street, and there's a store, and it just sucked me right into it. I'm standing there going, what did I come in here for? I walked out, and I walked across the street, and I looked over, and it was the original Psychedelic shop. It just pulled me right in. It was really neat.
Brothers, right?
What kind of shop is it? Is it a poster shop, or what is it?
What, the Psychedelic shop? Or mine?
Now.
Oh, it's a Japanese clothes store.
Japanese
Clothes store.
Japanese clothes? Japanese clothes?
You can wear your pin.
Kelly, how much did you pin cost?
Nickel.
About 1959 or 60 at the North Beach Art Show, America. So in that year said the whole world is going to pot. It had the ribbon beneath it. And a lot of freaks hanging around North Beach at that time.
Well, yeah,
60.
yeah.
A lot of the old Save the Good Ship Pope, Ban the Bomb, weird religious-looking freaks. But there were people coming on as beautiful people.
Oh yeah, well, pot was happening here in San Francisco in '59. That's for sure. I know that.
It was all those people that moved to the Haight-Ashbury. All the old beatniks, they retired to the Haight-Ashbury. That's what gave everybody the clues that, hey, what's going on there?
Well, it was a different scene than the Beats. The Beats were kind of dressed in black, and it was kind of a down kind of scene. And the freaks were into rock and roll and dressed flashy and much more up than the Beats. We had no beatitude.
How was it for you guys working together? There's like the stories of one's right, one's left handed, working together on a single poster. Did that happen often with you guys when you worked together on posters side by side?
Yeah, I'm left-handed, Stanley's right-handed.
So that makes it great when you guys work together on side.
We're like a four-headed monster. Which actually was nice because we had our other hands to do little things, manipulations.
So you guys are sitting backwards now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
It was funny, we didn't work together for a while, and then a couple years ago, we came together and did that TRPS station album cover. And we just sat down and started working, and the girl that works there said, "Don't you guys ever talk?"
Stan, do you have a piece that's your guys' favorite one you did together, or one you're the most proud of?
No.
They're all the best.
There's a lot of good ones.
Can each of you tell how the other has inspired?
What do you mean?
Well, how Stanley has inspired you, and how you could now tell how you inspired me.
Oh, gee, I don't know.
When I first met Kelly, he seemed,
I think Stanley and I are inspired by everything. You know, even you, Jim.
Could you talk about the transition from poster art to album cover?
They paid more money. Instead of getting, $50, we got, 1,000, which was a big jump.
And is that how it started, from the posters? Someone said, "Would you do a cover for me?"
Yeah, well, what was it?
That was your first time.
Yeah, I think the Grateful Dead's first album was our first cover. And that was Warner Brothers? Yeah, Warner Brothers. Yeah, they came to us. And then we started doing the album covers for different bands and stuff. Because I don't think the companies had in-house art departments at the time. It was just, usually a photograph of whoever it was, and then somebody set some type.
No, it was the contracts. The bands were making enough money of playing at the hall, so they didn't have to take a record contract. So when they did, they said, "Okay, this is what Jerry told me. He said, we want so much studio time, and we want artistic control." Elvis Presley didn't have artistic control over his album covers. So for the first time, the bands picked who they wanted to do their artwork.
Oh, that's good to hear, Victor.
I always wondered about that.
Otherwise, you think Warner Brothers would have ever hired you, man?
Oh, no. I don't think you'd use a photograph and have somebody press type.
John, show me your, were either of you into collecting artwork when you were younger, or at some point did you realize it was happening and started collecting, or what kind of influence?
I never was a
I
collector.
always collected everything I could get my hands on. When I was a little kid, stamps and coins and books and bugs, and, matchbooks and pencils and postcards. And I just like stuff. We produce a lot of it, so the more you like, the better you feel.
Was that he always had these really, really great ideas. I mean, it's just one after another after another. It's just, he kept coming up with good stuff. And I had just been painting for the last 10 years, with airbrush, and my hand was really together.
Oh, boy.
And so it was just like, Kelly had this great conceptual mind, and my hand was really great. And we got together and did these really neat things.
And I think that Stanley and I were maybe the first two artists who actually worked together. Artists were always kind of separate entities unto themselves. And then after we did, Stanley and I were working together, it loosened things up, and I could work with Victor, and I could work with Rick or Wes Wilson, and Crumb could work with Spain, and so there was, the artists weren't so separate, they actually got along and were friends, like the original five of us were all good friends. Wes Wilson and Victor and Rick and Stanley and I knew each other, and waited with great anticipation to just see what Wes was going to do next, or Victor was going to do next. So that I think we inspired each other. Yeah, and made us want to work harder.
I lived in London for a while, and I met the artists there, and they always wondered how we could always do that, you know, how we could, because they were all in fierce competition with each other, and they hated each other.
Well, that's what I left in New York. In New York, every artist had a secret studio. They didn't want anybody that might steal their ideas. The thing about the posters, man, in 1 week from idea to being on the wall, there was, what's the big secret, man? You know, it's like, and the studio just opened up.
Yeah.
Man, it was California, man. It's laid back. You know, it wasn't uptight in New York.
That's right.
Computers influenced it all.
Yeah, they make me ill.
We actually did our last poster on a computer.
Yeah. No, they're okay.
Yeah. But the whole time we always worked, we said, wouldn't it be neat to see how that looked like in blue? Or if we could change that red to green. And to do that, you'd have to mask it all off, and you have to spray it all white, and then you have to spray it all a different color. So this time we go, well, what do you think about that color? About that color?
Yeah.
Too many choices, actually, no.
Yeah, it gets confusing. And you got to be proficient. You know, Jim Phillips is really good at it. And, but it takes years of practice to just know the software, to even understand. I mean, to get a grasp on Photoshop or any of that kind of stuff is like, my God. You know, there's so much inside Photoshop, I just can't handle it.
If you got a creative spontaneity, there's instantaneity or something, just popping buttons. But that's not the creative part. Or could be.
Well, how long did you spend getting Photoshop down, Jim? How many years? And I bet you still don't have it down.
We started off with a poster to like 80 to 100 hours.
We could teach Kelly Photoshop in about 2 hours, right?
Well, in a way.
Yeah, he was sitting there doing it.
Some things are really immediate, but some things, like you say, are just so
Yeah. And
it still blows my mind.
yeah, I know. It's so complicated. I guess we're so old.
On the posters that you guys have done together, which we're looking at here, there's like a common thread, and I guess it's with the airbrush, where there's that shimmery, shiny look, a lot of like glares and glistenings. Who is that?
Who is that?
Yeah, who's putting the, like on the heart above your head there, who's putting the 2 shiny spots on the heart? You know, the reflective things that are all done there. Is that each of your technique? Or
That's me and Stanley.
So you're both kind of doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Does one shoot borders and letterings more than another one does, so to say, in the beginning or now? One of you guys pick a border, the other one picks the center of the art.
No, actually, after a while, Kelly got really good with his hands, and I got better with my conceptual stuff. So we both could pretty much do everything.
Yeah.
And it was.
And a lot of times we just work from one side into the middle. You know? And I don't think you could tell which side either one of us did, you know?
What about the poster for the show today?
What about it? What was the question? Oh,
I mean, just as far as like, you know, the collaboration effort, like would be like.
I'll walk you through it. Kelly walked in with this neat picture of a stamp. And again, there's Kelly's concept, and said, we'll just take our pictures and stick it into where the other guy's pictures.
Yeah, it used to be, actually it was Christopher Columbus and Queen Isabella of Spain. That's who used to be in there.
It's just switched now.
Yeah, and it was a $4 stamp.
So you could scan that with a computer and then pop it
Yeah,
over.
so we scanned it and just did all the manipulations on a computer. And
Yeah, flip the numbers around, and actually the 5 came off another stamp. Yeah. And
the neat thing that happened with this poster is Kelly and I, when we did posters in the 60s, we worked in an old firehouse on Henry Street in San Francisco, near the Haight-Ashbury, and we found these two young guys that would print this poster for us, and we went over the place, and it was a firehouse.
yeah, an old firehouse.
And they worked upstairs too, like we used to work. And here was us old guys looking at these young guys, and they were the age that we were when we were doing the posters.
Now
And
they're much older than we were.
what's that?
Chuck is 38 today.
Are you kidding?
No, we were 25.
I thought they were like 27.
I know. It's just we're so old. Everybody looks young.
So we had a lot of flashbacks watching, except these guys were working with computers.
Yeah. And they're great artists themselves.
Did you two ever disagree on a certain point in a poster?
Oh yeah, we've had many a nice fight.
Let's get into it.
Kelly, do you remember the story when you and Stanley Everett has moved to Marin? And you and Stanley were going to come over to Marin? No, before Kinnicower. You ended up in Marin City?
Oh, the first time coming over. Oh, right. Yeah, somebody said, well, you ought to see Marin. So we drive over the bridge and the sign says Marin City. So we go, look at it. What's so great about this? You know, I mean, God. No, it was just, no, I mean, Marin, dick. At least we had Victorians in the city, you know, I mean. I forgot about that, yeah, that's what Marin, our first impression of what Marin was, yeah.
What types of airbrushes do you guys use? What brand?
Iwatas.
Iwatas?
Yeah.
Me too.
What do you want? What?
Wrap it up about this.
Oh, wrap it up? Okay.
So you can have a chance to.
Oh, yeah, right, okay, 10 minutes. Okay.
I love the stuff you're doing with these hot rods.
Oh, thank
Is
you.
that like I never knew you used to be a mechanic. I know there's the Family Dog Soul Survivors with that bike on it.
Oh, yeah.
But is this like coming out of your old days as a mechanic?
What?
Are you like working as a mechanic? Did that influence any of this stuff?
Yeah, I love hot rods. Yeah, hot rods are. Stanley and I sort of grew up in the hot rod world. I mean, Stanley was doing the car shows, and that's what the whole thing was. And Stanley's all the monsters and everything. It's like Fords eat Chevys for breakfast. Mother's worry, all of that kind of thing. Yeah. If you go to the hot rod shows now, it's kind of different. The big shows are good. The shows like the show at the Cow Palace now. From what I understand this year, the cheapest car on the main floor was $210,000. And I don't know what the trophy winner was, but boy, there was cars that looked like they cost $500,000 to build. And it isn't like hot rodding used to be.
Did either of you guys do gift wrapping or balloons car design? Actually, on the cars?
Yeah,
When I was a teenager.
yeah, teenagers.
Where did you come up with the image on the Triple Street?
Oh, that's Phantom of the Opera. Lon Chaney. And Stanley had that out as a T-shirt. We had that out as a T-shirt that said "Speed Kills."
Someone said that at one point that poster was used kind of like a blotter.
No, that's not true. I've heard that story too. But no.
I wonder how many of those posters got eaten.
For no good reason.
Did LSD and other psychoactive substances during the early 60s have an influence on your work?
Gee, I suppose so. I thought one thing drugs have in common, they show you that there's another way of looking at things. And it doesn't matter which drug it is, just the commonality of it. And the drugs were okay. I mean,
How about the 90s?
what about them?
Are they any good now?
Are there still drugs around?
There's absolute.
Oh, yeah, there's absolute vodka. That's
When's
true.
that coming out?
Oh, that's out. That's out.
I mean, the label.
Oh, I don't know. I did that last year. And they sent me a case of liters of absolute currant and absolute straight and absolute orange and absolute lemon and absolute pepper and I have plenty of vodka.
All right.
How often would you guys be thought as one person, like Kelly Mouse or Mouse Kelly?
Yeah, that would happen all the time. A lot of people thought it was one person, yeah.
There was a point where I said, it can't be Kelly Mouse anymore. It's got to be Mouse and Kelly because I'm losing myself.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who. They said, Stanley Mouse, who's that? We've heard of Kelly Mouse.
So for the record, is it Mouse Kelly or Kelly Mouse?
Well, it looks like it went back to Mouse Kelly here. Or Kelly Mouse. Kelly Mouse here. Actually, it sounds better, Kelly Mouse. It's like Kelly Moore paints.
And Kelly tires. Okay, are we going to wrap it up?
Thank you, Stanley Mouse and Alton Kelley. First of all,
Did we do okay?
Because you cannot print pencil. Aha!
One last crack at the raffle?
yeah, anybody want to buy a ticket?